Um, my name is Zipporah Glass. It's spelled Zepporah. Last name Glass, Glass. Today's date is February 19th, 2021. I am currently in San Francisco, California, and I'm going to be conducting a remote interview with Mrs. Jeanette Spiegel. Jeanette, could you clap like this now? Could you clap?
Can you hear
Thank you.
it?
Yeah,
Can you hear it?
I can hear it. Thank you. Could we start with you saying your name the way you use it today and spell it, please?
Yeah. Jeanette Spiegel. Spiegel. Jeanette.
A-
Jeanette.
And what was your name at birth?
Also Jeanette Königsberg.
And could you spell that, Königsberg?
K-O umlaut. N-I-G-S-B-E-R-G.
And where were you born?
In Vienna.
And what was your birth date?
Was October 17, 1923.
And how old are you today?
97.
So I wanted to ask you first about your immediate family. Could you tell me the names of your parents?
Yes. Uh, Ozias Königsberg, my father. Ita Königsberg, my mother. Nay Taub, Taub. That was
And did
her
you?
maiden name.
Oh, thank you. Do you know your grandparents? Did you know them, and do you know their names?
Yes, I did not know my father's mother. She passed away when he was in his 20s, I believe. But I did know his father, Joseph Königsberg, and I did know my mother's parents. They were Israel Taub, Taub, and Golda Taub.
And what religion was your family?
We all was Jewish.
And do you know if they were all from Vienna or were they from other countries or other areas?
Yeah, my mother was from Galicia, from Poland.
And your father?
My father was born, I don't know exactly where, but he was like 2 years old when he was in Vienna. So
And what did your father and mother do professionally? Like what was their work?
no, my mother was a housewife. She did not go out to work. But we had a store with furniture and ladies' accessories.
And could you tell me a little bit about what it was like for you when you were growing up?
It was very, very nice. My I had parents who loved me, and I had an older sister, and so I was always spoiled because I was the little one. It was a happy family. I don't remember any fights because I don't think there were any fights between my parents ever. My mother would be after me, do homework, do this, but my father never.
What was your older sister's name?
Irma,
And how much older was she than you?
3 years.
So, you said your family was Jewish. Did you live in a Jewish area in Vienna?
No, we lived in the ninth borough, which was like in our building. There were two more Jewish family, and the building had at least 30 or 40 different. And there was, I remember there were one Jewish thing was Klinkhofer, one was Hüttner, then Weaver, and like our next door neighbor was a non-Jewish lady. Her name was Friedel. Her daughter was married to a Jewish man, but she was not Jewish. And then we had one neighbor whose son was an SS man. So we were very mixed.
Did you go to a public school or a private school?
It was a public school, but it was Catholic because it was not a Catholic school, but Vienna was very Catholic. And when we came in the morning, they used to say, our Father, and now it in German, Vater unser, der du bist, im Himmel, geheiligt werde der Name. I know the whole thing. So
Wow.
Vienna was extremely Catholic, and they became such terrible Nazis, much more than, and they hated the Jews much more than the German. I always said that if they were in the concentration camp, if they said to the German who was in charge, kill 2,000 Jews, he would kill 2,000. If he was from Vienna, he would kill 2,000 and 2,000 more and would say, look what I can do. What do I get a medal for it? That's how I look at Vienna people. They were very anti-Semitic, and yet when the armies in 44, I think they were in 44 that the Russians freed Vienna, then everybody said there were no Nazis. When there were so many already in the Nazi thing, before, when we still had Dollfuss and then Schuschnigg as chancellors.
Jeanette, I wanted to ask you some more things about your home life, but first, could I ask you to sit back, like lean back a little bit more? Yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I'll come a little closer and I'll talk a little louder, so maybe that'll be better. So let me ask you more things about, like growing up in Vienna. So first, what language did you speak at home with your parents?
German.
And your family? You spoke German. Any other languages?
No, not with my parents. No.
Yeah. And did you have an extended family there? Did you have aunts and uncles and cousins?
Yes, my mother had two sisters. There were three. My mother was the middle one. She had an older sister who was married to my father's brother.
And what was that sister's name?
Uh, the name was Königsberg because
Uh,
she was married to my father's brother.
do you remember
So
her first name? What her first name was?
Dora,
Yeah. And the other sister, do you remember her name?
yeah, Sabina, and Shapiro. She was married to a man by the name of Shapiro.
And I want to ask you also about, your religious observance. Did you go to synagogue? Did you celebrate holidays? Could you talk about that?
Uh, well, we observed the high holy days. We had seats in the temple, and for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, my parents went to the temple. But my mother lit candles on Friday night, but I don't. When I went to school, then later on, there was the youth for the youth to go to temple on Saturday afternoon. So I went. I also went to like Sunday school where I learned the Jewish history, starting with Adam and Eve, going all the way. And I learned to read Hebrew, but by now I don't think I can read. A little bit, maybe.
So tell me more of, some memories that you have of that time in your life. Like, did you have hobbies? Did you belong to clubs? About your friends? What do you remember?
My friends were mixed. They were not just Jewish. I had some very good friends, Paula Getzinger, non-Jewish, Grete Bubler, non-Jewish, Lotte Kellman, Jewish. Let's see. We were all, when I was brought up, it was no special, you're Jewish, you're Catholic, nobody asked. But later on, they became all very, that they didn't like the Jews. Once Hitler was there, the Viennese were terrible. And they want to say that they were the first ones taken. It's a lie. They were climbing on the trees to greet Hitler.
Do you remember?
I
I'm sorry.
remember that. And when they say that they were the first country taken, they welcomed him. He was one of theirs. He was born in Vienna. So that was not true. But I think they let them, after the war, they were treated like, because of their chancellor, Schuschnigg, who did not want to give in, and they wanted to hide him, and he said no. And he was standing there, and they put him in a concentration camp. But later on, he came here, and he taught my grandchild. Wer did Gracie go to school?
WashU? Washington University, St. Louis.
Jeffrey will tell you. He taught in an American school, in college, right? Gracie Schuschnigg was teaching in your school.
Okay, but not for her. Cool.
That was the Austrian he did not want to give in to Hitler. He wanted to vote, and Hitler stuck him into. He felt that maybe the Viennese will not want to vote for Hitler, but it didn't come to it. Hitler didn't take any chances that somebody would vote against him.
Oh, what did you feel was the first thing that happened that you saw there was going to be something different in your life? What did you feel first? What was the first change that you felt, when things politically started changing in Austria?
What was the first? There were so many different things happened. That all of a sudden, lots of my friends were in uniform in the BDM. This was the girls for Hitler, and the boys were in the uniform all of a sudden with black pants and brown shirts, and Vienna became, because they were very proud that Hitler was from Vienna, so the people changed a lot. But
did your family? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all right.
I wanted to ask if your family had a radio at home, or were you listening to what was going on, and did you hear speeches by Hitler? Could you talk about that?
What I remember is that at night there were a certain way knocking, and then the English came on, and they spoke about that in the woods of Poland there is something very terrible going on, but they gave that during the night. That was I don't know what the English thing was, but I know that the side came on after they knocked a certain knocking. But we had a radio, but it was very dangerous to listen to that, because there used to be cars used to drive around to listen if anybody had a radio. And then we had to, I don't know what happened, but I think my parents then destroyed the radio, so we should not be caught with it. I remember the famous, in November, the Kristallnacht. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Could you talk about that, and where you were and what you saw?
Yeah. Well, we were home, and one of my father had many non-Jewish friends. One of them came. His name was Novak. I will never forget that name. He came, he said to my father, "Please get dressed and come with me." And for the whole night, he took my father and hid him, I don't know where, and all the Nazis came and they took all the men from our building who wound up then in Buchenwald. And Mr. Novak brought my father back. I will never forget that friend. He was a very, very good friend. He was with my father in the First World War together.
And did your parents talk about possibly leaving Austria, or did they have a plan? What were they considering?
Well, my mother's sister was in Belgium, and they had some cousins in the United States, but there were three. There was my Aunt Dora, my mother, and her younger sister, and the people they had in the States, you needed, I think, $5,000 for an affidavit for family. So only one relative was rich enough to have $5,000 in the bank, because you couldn't touch it once you put it up until the person was in the States. So nobody was this rich in my family, except that one cousin, Abe Grob was his name, was a cousin of my mother's.
And this was someone who was in the United States?
Yeah.
And what was his last?
I'm sorry.
Could you spell his last name? The person.
Yeah.
Abe.
Grob. Grob. It was Abraham Grob, and he had a cafeteria or something. I don't know, but he had the money to put up. The thing was that he gave that for my mother's youngest sister. They decided, he didn't decide on it. Between the three sisters, they decided that the youngest sister should get the affidavit.
What was her name? Could you say her name? Sabina.
Sabina Shapiro.
And what happened? Did she get the affidavit?
She got the affidavit, but she never came to the United States. They went to Belgium. They lived in Belgium, but I think by the time it came through, she couldn't make it. They went to France when the Germans marched in. Everybody, they lived first in Belgium, including me. We all walked towards France, but they were let in to France because they had an affidavit. I didn't have an affidavit, so I was not let in, but they went with neighbors, and the neighbors weren't let in either. So they said, well, will take her back to Brussels.
Well, Jeanette, hold off. I want to go back a little bit because I want to hear a little bit more about what happened and what you saw on Kristallnacht, and what life was like after the Germans came to Austria. How did your life change? Oh, and also, could you sit back a little bit? Can you lean back? Oh, thank you.
It changed For the first, in school it changed. Everything was different. We were all of a sudden, many people wanted to have nothing to do with Jewish people. So then my friend, I kept my Jewish friend like the Lotte, and so, but for my non-Jewish friends, maybe, the Paula, one for sure was still my friend, but they didn't come and I didn't see them. And we used to play ball, and that stopped too. So,
And were you still going to school?
no, they closed the school, but I don't know which Jewish organization opened something. And then there were the Jewish children, like I went to school in the 9th borough, but when the Jewish people opened some school for kids, they took the 20th borough, the 9th borough, they took a few boroughs together because they only opened 1 or 2 schools. And then I could go there. But it was never the same.
And could you talk a little more about Kristallnacht? Where were you that night that happened, and what did you see afterwards?
I was with my parents where I lived, and my father's friend Novak came and he told my mother, no matter what happened, do not open the door. And they were knocking on the door, and the door was wood here and wood here, but like bubble glass here with iron thing. And my mother thought they would break that in, but it held because there was the iron before you could get to the glass. And she told us we can't, no talk, quiet. And we didn't open, and the door held, and we were saved. But some Jewish people in our building, they took, because the 9th borough was not very Jewish. It was a very mixed thing. In the 2nd borough, which was very religious, and most religious Jewish people lived in the 2nd borough. And there it was very, very bad. So many people were taken then. And then there was only Buchenwald and one other concentration camp. There was no Auschwitz then. I don't know what the other I forgot. It's so long.
And what happened the day after? Did you go out to see if what it was like the day after Kristallnacht? Did you see anything?
No, my mother would not let me out. But what we did is she only let me out. Only I went out for shopping food or so. None of my parents or my sister, they did not go out. But I don't know. they sent me. I said, I go. I'm not afraid. And I had nobody. I went, I shopped, and I went home. But I did not go out to play again, to play ball with my friends or so. I don't know, they might not have wanted to play with me anyhow, if they weren't Jewish.
Were you able to go back to your synagogue?
Zum Müllner Temple? No. It was Rabbi Schwartz, and when that happened, he got up on the pulpit and he said, if you can, it will be terrible, and if you can, try all to leave Austria. And he made a big speech against the Germans. And after this, I think he fled to England. And then for the youth service was Rabbi Brunner, yeah. He also escaped because Rabbi Brunner, I saw, I don't know, was it in Belgium? In Belgium, I think I saw him once.
Jeanette, we're going to pause for a minute. Okay, let's go back because I want to ask you how a decision was made about what to do next. Like, what did your parents decide for you and your sister?
My sister, I think, could have gone to England, but they sent me to my mother's sister to Belgium, and then my sister didn't want to leave my parents, and she stayed with them, and she got killed, and my parents got killed. I think they got shot. I don't know, my daughter knows where it happened. Where is Heidi?
I'm over here.
Heidi?
What?
Where did Heidi come here?
No.
That's okay. We could talk to Heidi after.
No, she knows where my parents got shot.
Okay. You know what? We'll ask her to talk about that afterwards. But tell me about that time that you left Vienna. What were you thinking, or what?
They sent me to my aunt in Belgium.
And which aunt was that?
That was my mother's younger sister. They were three.
Do you remember that day that you left? You know, what were you thinking that was going to happen?
I certainly didn't think that I would never see my parents again. It was much more like I'm gonna visit my aunt, and I knew my aunt, and I knew my cousins, so I wasn't this sad. Well, my mother must have known something because she was crying and she did not want to go bring me to the train. Only my father brought me. But I didn't know I didn't have the feeling that I will not see my parents again.
Yeah. And how was it your time in Belgium? Could you talk about that when you arrived and what conditions was there for you there?
Well, uh, Belgium was taken then in May 45. Uh, uh, I know it was May because I remember I woke up and I said, "Oh, we're gonna get a storm." I heard such noise, and then I looked out and there was sunshine, and I said, "What is that noise?" And that was the Belgian fighting, but they had no help from the French. And the famous Maginot Line was never used, but the Brigade Blanche, which was the Belgium, later on it became the underground, but they were fighting, but they were a small little country fighting the big German army. So I know I will never forget uh, my aunt. We all tried to get into France. When they let my aunt in, she had with David. They didn't let me in, and they didn't let my aunt's neighbors in, and they took me back, and they were very good to me. Their name was Burke, because they had a daughter which was in Cologne, with his mother, which he never saw, and his wife came to join him, but they couldn't bring the kid, and they were very good to me. I must have been sort of the same age, I think.
And you said Bork. Could you spell that? What the family name?
Yeah, uh, Gerhard and Elsa Berg, B-O apostrophes C-K, I think.
So was anyone else with you beside you and your aunt? Was there other family
Yeah,
members? Were there
no,
any other family
was
members?
my uncle and my two cousins, Hertha and Erika, who also died in Auschwitz. By the time I came in, there was one of their friends was alive, and she told me that both girls were killed in Auschwitz. But my aunt and uncle were killed immediately. They never made it in. But both their daughters made it in. But one got typhus, not typhoid, typhus. That was in German, I know, fleck fever, like you got spots, whatever. And that was very common. And when you got that, they immediately killed you out. I
What could
know.
could I'm sorry. Could you go back to the time where you tried to go into France? Like, because you couldn't get in. Now, what happened and where did you go from there?
The neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Burke, brought me back and they kept me because they had that. He never saw his daughter, who was supposedly close to my age, and uh, they were very good to me. He was he made a bookbinder. You know what that is? He, if you had some old, very expensive books, you would put them in leather or just in half leather and so. And by watching him, I knew how to do it, how to solve it, to buy. Yeah, they were very nice and very.
Was that
And
family Jewish?
no, no, they were German. They were German communists who ran away, and in fact, his brother was a well-known communist because he was a friend or a close thing to, what was the name of the communist leaders? I don't remember the name. So they were not Jewish.
At that time, were you in hiding, or were you still able to go out when you were with the Bork family? Did you have to hide?
Officially, I was hiding. I always went out. I didn't, the Jews had to wear a yellow star. I never wore the star. In fact, it was this family who told me, no such thing. They have no right to make you wear a star. But most Jewish, my aunt, and they wore stars and they were taken. And I remember the Gestapo came in 1942 to get my aunt and uncle, and I remember that day very well. You could buy nothing. You had stamps, but they were no good. And I remember had a very small foot, like a 34, so an impossible thing. And in the shoe store, the sample was a 34 that was for sale. And I said I wanted to go to buy them, and I asked my cousins, come with me, let's walk down the boulevard. It's not far. But my aunt says, oh, they have to get dressed up. I said, for what? For walking down? No, my aunt said. So I went, I bought the shoes. They were made from straw and had a cork bottom. But it was better than no shoes. So when I come back, and they lived in the Rue de Dame in Brussels, and I was on the corner, and I look and I see the Gestapo car is in front of the building, and I said, I'm not gonna go there, and I stood back and waited. They took my aunt, my uncle, and the two cousins, and later on when I was in Auschwitz, I saw a friend of theirs who told me that My aunt and uncle was killed immediately, but the girls made it in. But then I think one got typhus, flag fever, and the other one then got sick too, and they got killed.
And what were their names, your cousins?
Hertha was the older one, and Erika was the younger one.
And their last name? Their last name?
Shapiro.
Did you have any contact with your parents in Vienna during that time?
Did I have friends?
Did you have contact with your parents?
The only thing is to my aunt. My aunt was riding, and I was riding them. And that was all. There was no telephone or anything. I don't know if you could phone from one country to another then.
But you were receiving letters from your parents?
Yeah, they were riding. They were writing to my aunt, and then they always put letters in for me when they sent it.
So after you were with the Bork family, what happened after that?
After this happened, Auschwitz.
Tell me how you arrived there. Like, what happened in Brussels that you were taken to Auschwitz?
Oh, how? Let's see. They were hunting the Jews, and I escaped. Once they really got me, that was also in 42, and I had a kitten, and I said, the Gestapo was up, and I said, am I allowed to bring my kitten to the super so somebody takes care of it? Oh yeah, they said, we wouldn't want that little cat to die. Very friendly to the cat. So they went up to get some other Jewish people, and I took the pussycat, and I went downstairs, and I opened the door to outside, and I see that the Gestapo car is way down the street. I put the cat down, and I ran out, and I think I took a picture many years later at that corner. An electric tram came. Then now they have doors to close. Then there were no doors. I jumped up and I said, the Gestapo is after me. And there were some people in the train, in the car, and they said, let's go all the way to the border. Don't stop, don't stop. I respect the Belgian people for doing that. And they all went far out of their way, and I got off in the border. That's, how do you translate border? It was the woods. In the woods, and they went back then to where they needed. But there wasn't a single one that said they should stop, they want to get out. So I have great respect for these people.
So what
then,
happened when in the woods? Where did you do then?
then I waited till the evening. And then I took a train and I stopped off by my friend Meta. She was from Germany. She was Jewish. And she was married. Her husband's name was Günther. I think the name was Neufeld. I'm not sure. Maybe that was her maiden name. I can't remember. And I told them what happened, and they said, "Oh, you stay here with us until..." I stayed with, then I stayed with so many different people and Jewish who was hiding themselves. And of course, they saw a Jewish kid, more or less, and they said, "Yeah, you can stay with us." But nothing helped because in the end, they did catch me. But had they caught me in 42, I would not be alive now. It was very few people made it who got there in 42. And there was a big difference already from 44.
And how did they finally catch you? Where were you then? Do you remember that day that you were taken?
Yeah. On April Fool's Day, April 1st, 1944, I was living then with a lady, her name was Schick, but I don't remember her first name.
Do you remember how it was spelled? How do you spell it?
Yeah, Schick, Schick. She had a son who was in prison in Belgium for black market. And she was very happy. He said, "Just let him stay in prison in Belgium." But then I think they did empty the prisons of Jewish people and they got killed. But anyhow, I got in. I came to Auschwitz and there was music. They had a band always playing. And then there were Germans, all SS, standing. And then there was somebody, he had the doctor, I think it was Dr. Mengeles. Did you ever hear of that name? Yeah. Dr. Mengeles was standing there, right, left. We didn't know, he split the things. And then to our side, and I don't even remember if it was right or left that I was, he said, he called somebody, they marched us into the camp, and the others, they marched to the crematorium. But we didn't know that at the time. But there was something, there was a smell, a very funny smell. And there were like gray ashes or whatever. I didn't know what that gray stuff was, what fell around. You come in, it is so unbelievable that you would think the gas people and the Burnham, that when you come in, you don't think that. But we came in and then they tattooed us.
Yes. Could you also read the number for me?
Yeah, 76,655. I know it by heart, I don't have to look. And then it was so much that later on they made an A in front. I don't know, they went to 200,000, I have no idea. And then they start A, all numbers, and then the B's. And so when we were selected right and left, he would say, no children, small children, the mothers, they go because it's about a mile or two to walk. He says they can go on the truck. And I know there was a friend of mine whose mother had to go on the truck, and she says, I want to be with my mother. And he says, well, you can go up on the truck. And then a friend of her mother's came who had to walk, who was a young woman, and she says, I want to go on the truck. So my friend, then that girl says, there was no room anymore. She says, oh, I will give you my seat. And she came down, and her life was saved because she gave that seat away.
And do you remember the name of your friend who went on the truck?
Yeah, Liesl. I would have to think about, sometimes I remember her other name, but her first name was Liesl.
Were you with people that you knew now when you arrived there? Did you have?
Well, we were first in Malines, where they gathered enough people. Malines is in Belgium, in the middle between Antwerpen and Brussels, is Mechelen. That's Malines in French, Mechelen in Dutch. And that is where a camp was, where they gathered enough people because the train couldn't come just for a few. And when they had enough, like I was there 3 or 4 days, but then they had enough people to send a train to Auschwitz.
Do you remember that train ride?
Yeah, sort of. It were cattle cars where they used to transport cattle, and there was straw inside, but no benches or so. But there were, for every person, there was a Red Cross package of food to eat. The Swiss Red Cross put if they say there are 30 people in that train, there were 30 packages. Everybody got a package. So we were going like 3 days. It was a long thing. I opened up, and there were things like bread and some soft cake, but there also were sardines and things in tuna. And I said, oh, I'm going to leave that. Everybody was saving the things. And when we came there, the German took that.
Did you know where you were going when you were on the train?
No. You see, if you put on the English, was that the BBC? I don't know who it was. They used to talk about that there is something in the woods of Poland, but where terrible things are going on. They knew something, but they didn't know how much until somebody escaped. Somebody escaped and went, instead saving himself, there were two people, I think, they went to the Pope to tell, and they went to the different Jewish organizations to tell what's really going on. Nobody knew before that.
Jeanette, we're going to take a quick break right now. So I'm going to turn off my recorder. I think your family needs to move. So I'm turning my recorder off right now. So Jeanette, let's go back and just a little bit before you arrived at Auschwitz. Like, where were you when the Gestapo actually caught you? Where were you living?
I was in Belgium. I lived in so many places. Where did they catch me? I remember once they came where they didn't catch me, where I went out on the roof and sat on the roof and waited till they left. It was always not just for me. They came and took lots of people, but once I escaped, when they let me bring the cat to the super, and I opened the door, and the Gestapo car was down the street getting some other people. So I opened the door, and a tram came by, and then they didn't have doors. So I just jumped up and I went all the way to the Bois de la Cambre, and I sat there for the day. And I went back, and I went, I think, to Meta, to some Jewish friends I had. But of course, the Jewish people would always let me in, or anybody, but Renove or so, if there was some.
Could you tell me now more about your time when you arrived at Auschwitz? Oh, can you hear me okay?
I can, but
when you arrived in Auschwitz, you talked to me about what you saw and about Mengele.
yeah, well, we arrived, and we had to walk into the camp, and as you was walking, it was so bad, the water came up every 3. Later on, we were working on it. They made the Jews work and make streets and everything there because it was unpaved, and I was there in April 6th or by April 7th, and there was a very big, there was so much going on, and I didn't know what it was, but later on I found out somebody escaped, and they were besides themselves. They looked all over that somebody they didn't think anybody could escape from there, but somebody did escape. Some
And
boys.
were you
I
able
think
to
2 or
wear
3,
your
I
own
don't know.
clothes, or did you have to wear something they gave you?
No. You see, when they were taking me, that SS man sort of looked very friendly. He said, "No, you can pack up all your things," he says. "You can take them with you." So that's what I did, because that's what they wanted you to bring it. And then you had to leave everything and go into the shower. You come out on the other side, and there were some old torn clothes laying around. And I remember there was a long brown skirt that was too big on me, and then there was some blue blouse with big sleeves. And later on, when I worked in the potato fields, I loved my blouse. You couldn't be caught. Oh, they would beat you, but the sleeve was big enough, and I could take one small potato for me to eat, one small potato for the girl who had a fire and a pot with water. And if she cooked your potato, you had to give her one potato. And one I took for the girl who was in charge of all the basins, the water basins, because I wanted to stay clean. If you had a louse, they killed you. And there were many lice in that place. So I gave her that potato and let me wash and stay clean. So there were all kinds of deals. And then we got a Kommissbrot. You know what a Kommissbrot is? It's like a square, and it was made in 4 pieces. That was this much bread. 1 patty of margarine, this big, and 1 slice of some kind, wasn't salami, but was something, 1 slice. And then they had a soup, but I don't know what was in there. And in the morning, they gave you something to drink. We got a round dish, which we got the food in, and we got in the morning, they said it was tea, but it was not tea. Whatever it was terrible, and you were better off not drinking it. But the soup, when they came with the soup, and you were lucky you got from the bottom, there were some potatoes in, and of course there were, what do you call that? Well, German it is eine Rübe, whatever. But it was a smelly thing. A potato was good if you can get.
And what kind of
smelly.
housing did you have? You know, where did you sleep?
First, we got into barracks, and we had to stay without working there. It was quarantine. That was, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They wanted to see if anybody was sick or so. They told you, oh, if you don't feel good, if you was something wrong, go to the infirmary. Well, they told me, they shaved us, but they left my hair. I was in the one transport where they left the hair because the Red Cross came, and they put us in front. I didn't know why I was standing there, but they went by and they said, they said to them, what you hear is all lies. There you have them. We were all brand new. We came from outside. They didn't show the people who were there for months. So the Red Cross found that we didn't look so bad.
And what were you thinking then? And how did you feel? Were you afraid, or were you hopeful? I can't imagine what it was like then.
Well, I heard when I walked in, I heard that I just avoided being gassed. I said, what do you mean? I wouldn't go in the gas if he wants me to go. It was ridiculous the way you think you... Because they told you, the inmates told you that you would want your mother is already gone. You want, what, you had a little sister? You're not with her? She went the other way. She's already burning there. But I was lucky that I wasn't with my sister or my mother. Had I been with my mother, I would not have let her go alone that way. I would have gone with her. Or my sister, I was alone, and that was good that I was alone. Any other way, I would not have made it. Usually, if I talk about Auschwitz, I don't mention my parents, although they did not die in Auschwitz, they died somewhere else. But because I can talk about my mother, father, but when I talk about Auschwitz, I picture them And, and then it is so much harder when, to talk about them. I can talk if I don't picture them.
Was there something while you were in Auschwitz that gave you some comfort? Did you find something that gave you some hope or comfort?
No, they always, you always, there was a selection, and so and when you made it, you feel like you have another, I don't know, 3 months, 5 months before they might make another selection, who should live, who should die. And I was standing next on one selection, I think, when I came in, I was standing next to a girl. Her name was Susan. She was French. With the Belgium transport, also a French transport was hooked on. And so Susan was French, and she had a leather bracelet. And she says, I want you, she was next to me, and she said, I want you to have the leather bracelet. That will bring you luck. I said, you need it. She says, no, I'm not worried. Well, she didn't make it, and I made it. And I had that leather bracelet for years and years here, and it fell apart, and I had it sewn on another piece of leather until both disintegrated. Because I really believed that leather bracelet saved me. But I did not know that the doctor who came by and selected us, he didn't speak to most people, but he spoke to me. He said, you have very light eyes. Where did you get them from? I said, from my father. My father had very light eyes. That was all he said. And they all said, do you know that was Mengeles? Who is Mengeles? I didn't know. But I don't know, then I was scared. They said, Mengeles has a selection of light eyes. I said, he gonna kill me for my eyes. But no, I don't think he had. But there were so many things said in the camp. You didn't know what was true, what was not true. But that is, I talked to Mengeles. I said, for my father. He looked very friendly. He spoke in a very low voice. He did not scream. And he was such an evil person. And I think he was from Austria. Who else? And the commandant of the camp was Rudolf Höss, H-O with the two things, SS. Later on, towards the end, when I was there, we had another commandant that was the head of the whole camp by the name of Kramer. Kramer. I don't know, I don't remember the first name. But when we arrived, and the train held, and there were prisoners because they wore the striped uniform, they were men. The one who opened our car said, "You all are over 16 and you all want to work. The only thing is, most people in my car only spoke French. We were from Belgium. And for me, it didn't matter. I was over 16. And do I want to work? Not for them, but I wouldn't say that, of course. So it was somebody who wanted to save in case there was somebody was only 15, or maybe some people think, oh, maybe we don't have to work if we are saying we are younger. So that was very nice of that prisoner to warn us. Later on, I found out it was Fritz, but I can't remember I knew the other name because I felt he saved people with this if they understood him. But now I don't remember his other name. But there were good people and bad people and some good people who became bad because they had a good job where other people had to work. Like each barrack had one girl who was the head of the barrack, which was a good job. Well, we had to get up sometimes at 4 o'clock at night. We had to stand outside because the woman who was in charge, Irma Grese, I think she was hanged, used to come at 7 o'clock by, and we had to stand. And I remember I had shoes which a friend of my aunt who worked in the shoe department gave me, and they got stolen. And she says, "You always have to sleep on your shoes," she told me afterwards. I didn't know. We were a handful of Jewish girls in a barrack that was all Polish girls, and they stole my shoes. And she said, of course, she said, you sleep on that. You don't leave that. That is maybe 2 big pieces of bread they can have for that. But I didn't know. She got me then another pair, but that was then just fabric with soles. She was a very nice lady. Some prisoners were not
why do you
nice.
say that? What sort of things would they do that were not nice?
The couples, they were Jewish. They would hit you to make themselves look good for the German girl. but most of them were very nice. I mean, they leave you alone, but they cannot give you more bread. They only have a little piece, just like you. But they came and they gave you the soup, and if you were lucky, you got from the bottom where there were some carrots and some potatoes in, where the top was just soup.
Was it an
nothing.
advantage for you that you could speak German?
I think the people who spoke German, it was an advantage. For the first, you could hear you knew what the German said. If he said, make in place 5 each or whatever, you knew what to do. So you avoided being hit. And then I remember in the beginning, they selected some people and they said, there are new people come in and you have to get all their jewelry. And there was a thing where the jewelry got in. I did not want to work in that. A French transport came, and I was in that thing, and there was a lady, and she had given whatever, but she wore a gold wedding band, and I said, please put that in that box. And she got so mad at me, and she said, you want to be a Jewish child? You want to take my wedding band? I gave them my earrings, my watch, my bracelet. And I looked at her and said, please, please look at me. The German was standing behind me, and he went, fuck! And he gave her such a shot. And I showed them. As I said, I am not taking your jewelry. Please put it there. And if she would have hidden I let her go by, and I'm happy that but she cannot do that with the Germans staying here, and she wears it. And I said, I cannot work in that thing. That is a very bad thing to work in. And everybody wanted to work. It was very easy, much easier than taking heavy loads of stones and trying to get the road without water, putting stones on was. I don't know why she thought she could keep that wedding band. I understand that the wedding band meant more to her than her diamond earrings and everything. But I couldn't leave it, otherwise I would have gotten hit. But I said, I cannot do that. That makes me feel like crying, that people think I want to be mean to them, and I have nothing to do with that. So then after I worked in repairing streets and all these things, Mengeles came. don't forget, I had hair. When you took 50 kids, 50 girls standing there, or with little hair like this standing up, I had hair. But all my transport had hair, but we were only one transport in hundreds. So once in a while, and also once you had a job like you were the head of the barrack, or there was some other, you were in the kitchen, so your hair grew, and so when somebody saw you with hair, they always felt, oh, you must have a good job. But they left our transport with hair. We didn't have good jobs, but it was a great advantage. So then I met a girl there. She was Jewish, and she was, I think, the only one who was treated like, there were many non-Jews caught there for prostitution and for being political involved and all this. But that Jewish girl, and they put these people in Auschwitz, but they kept their things. That means if you came with a suitcase, they put the name on, because it was a non-Jewish girl, and eventually maybe she gets free and she can take. And there was one Jewish girl from Yugoslavia who was a political prisoner, but she was Jewish. And
Do you remember
I became
her
very
name?
friendly with her. She was very nice. Yeah, Magda Rausnitz. I think then she got married, was Magda Friedrich, but I heard she was married to a Swede or Norwegian, but I went with my husband all over Europe to look for her, because she was really a good friend, and we never found. We went to the Jewish, the Kultusgemeinde, like where the Jews were registered, but I never found her. Then I remember in Belgium, the Catholic nuns, I know how it came. In Belgium, the buildings were like small, the stairs were wooden and had an edge of iron, and I got stuck and I fell down, and I wound up in the hospital in Belgium. No, the Belgian people were very nice. I have nothing bad about them. And it was the nuns who took care of that. And I could have stayed. They liked me a lot. And they would have liked to keep me. But it was an old age home, and every morning they came with the cross, they walked around, I walked after them, and then I would say, oh, where is Madame so-and-so? They would say, Elle est morte. She died. it was an old age home. They were so old, these people, that later on, when we looked, they said, no, they gave up. They were all very old, sick people were in there. I didn't want to be there. I would have been saved had I stayed with the nuns. But because it was an old age home, I was scared of it. I was dumb. So these are so little things which I remember, you know.
Jeanette, were you able to stay healthy, or at least did you avoid getting ill when you were in Auschwitz?
I was healthy, but what happened is when they shaved you, you went like this, they cut me. And it was, and when a selection came for the gas chambers, you had to get undressed, you had to go like this, and you had to turn around. And Dr. Mengeles would decide. So that wasn't very good to have. But I worked in the Canada then. Well, it was called Canada because the people said Canada is the land of milk and honey. And it was such a good job. It was like I worked under coach once. There came 5 coats came, you put them together and they were shipped to Germany. It was all Jewish, what Jewish people bring. That's why you left the suitcase there. They were opened up and they were assorted. Jewelry, of course, was always, there was the German always standing over it. But I heard of things where if you have jewelry that you could smuggle through, there was a German who would tattoo somebody. If you didn't get a tattoo, you were going into the gas chamber. He would, if you had some jewelry, if you could smuggle through some jewelry, was very difficult to smuggle through. I couldn't do that. I didn't have any great jewelry. I had not tiny little earrings like children wear with little blue stone. I had a little gold necklace with a mezuzah. Whatever young people were, I didn't have jewelry. Jewelry came with the Hungarians. When the Hungarian transports came, there came jewelry and food. But when I worked in assorting 5 coats, and we put them nicely together, made a bundle, and they were shipped to Germany. All this stuff they stole from the Jews was shipped to Germany. That's how they gave out when, the Germans gave, you had another child, and it's your 10th child, you deserve whatever they gave you. And it was all Jewish, but they stole from the Jews. Now it is over 70 years already. But when I first came, I think my daughter Heidi's son recorded. Then I remembered so much more little details. And I think he recorded it. I don't know. Maybe
while
my
you were
daughter
there,
would
did you
remember.
have, did you hear any news about the war and what was going on with the war at the time you were there?
A little. What happened is uh, there came Polish people. There were latrines, and they came to clean out the latrine, and they came from the outside. These were the only people I knew. And if we found watch or anything, we could make a deal with them. We gave them the watches or so, said, throw them into the latrine. We get it. And we did that. And they would give a Polish paper, but I couldn't read it. But some of the girls were from Poland, and they could read it. But what was reported was always looking at the German side, but it was enough when they said, we haven't gotten to move the Russians yet, but we will by tomorrow probably. That was enough. They are stuck there. The Russians got them. So only this way, because the papers wouldn't write anything what would get them in trouble. They were all, practically all of Europe was in German hands. So it was very dangerous to say anything against. I came to the United States as a displaced person, but my mother had cousins whom I never knew, and her aunt, which was my great aunt, who lived in the United States. And when they heard that I was the only one by my mother 3, by my father 4, with families and children, I was the only one to survive from, I think my daughter said was all together with cousins and second cousins, like 400 people. I was told. They immediately sent me care packages. So I told them that, I wrote them that I thanked them, and that I sold the rice. Rice was so seldom to get that I got enough money. Then I lived with another girl in Vienna. When I came, but that was after Auschwitz, that I could pay the rent for the thing. For one, I think was that 2 kilo, whatever that was, of rice was enough. Rice was there was no such thing like rice. I didn't even like rice. I want to sell it. I don't like it. I didn't care. I can eat bread. I liked bread because we didn't get that. We got a little piece of bread.
Jeanette, I want to ask you a few more things about Auschwitz. So, what gave you then sort of the strength to go on? Did you have hope? Did you think that the war would end and you would go home?
I don't know if I told that, but I said, they, they are not gonna get me. I promised myself that they will not get me, and I worked on that. That I remember. I said, they will not get me. They got my cousins, they got my aunt, and I knew by then my parents definitely didn't make it, but I had hoped that my sister made it, but she didn't. No. When I was in Auschwitz, I wanted my sister to be taken and go to Auschwitz because I had enough food, so I knew enough people to save her, but she didn't come to Auschwitz. She got, I forgot where she got killed. She was 18. I didn't hope for my parents because I saw what I said, no, they would not have been able to make it. But all this time I had hoped my sister made it, but she didn't. And I knew already my cousins were there, and they came into the camp and they were there for months and then died. And somebody told me that the older one, Herta, was taken and she was on the truck and she knew that they're gonna guess that where would they go. That Erika ran after them and said, I wanna go with her. I said, if I would have been there, I would not have let her go. But she didn't want to be without her sister. But I don't know. Would I have run after a truck when my sister was there? I don't know. But I would have tried to get my sister down, though. But she never came to Auschwitz. But we were a few girls from Vienna and we stuck together. And they made it. One of them I knew from Vienna, Herta, but she died then on typhus, flag fever. The other one was Liesl. Liesl made it, and I saw Liesl
Do you remember
afterwards
their
in Vienna.
last name? Liesel's last name and Herta's last name?
Herta Eder, Eder. But Liesl, what was Liesl? And Liesl was very well liked in camp because she was, she would split anything she has. She was so good-natured. But the capo didn't like Liesl because all the other girls liked her. But no, I don't.
And
I was
Jeanette,
friendly.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I was friendly with a girl from Cologne. Her name was Sarah Schneider. And she made it. And I heard when the American army was there, she found her cousin, and she married him and went to the United States. And that
No,
was a
I
good
was going
end.
to ask,
Was
here you
something
were in
nice.
Auschwitz with so many young women your age. What happens when you would have your period? What was there something that you could do?
It just stopped. They gave you the tea. I think it had something to do with that.
And what if somebody was pregnant?
No more.
Did you know if anybody came?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking of her name, Bertha, but I don't remember her second name. And they asked if anybody was pregnant. And if you were smart, you said no. But that they didn't know when they first came in. And she went, and Mengeles, they all became, how do you say that? When Mengeles he tried all kinds of things, of cutting them open, or twins. He asked, who are twins? And then they were separated, they got good food. Then one of them, he made all kinds of experiments. That's what they did with all the pregnant women. They made all experiments. They wanted to find out how to make people should get twins and triples and whatever. Germany needed people for the war. So it was very bad. You were better off not saying if you were a twin. And if you were pregnant, Bertha said, and then she got very good food throughout them, and then he took the baby and killed the baby and killed it. But I know where I worked, there was a Hungarian woman. She was pregnant, but she was hiding it. And when the baby was born, the baby was dead. They put it out. Nobody told whose baby it was. And her life was saved. Of course, she lost the baby, but she was freed. And if her husband was saved, I don't know, but she could have another baby. This one was lost. Mengele liked that. Oh, he was treating them very special, because then in the end he cut them open. It was terrible. It was better to move, to be the wall, to be not seen. It was better. I was in shock when he asked me about my eyes. Right away there were tales that he kills people because he collects eyes. I don't think he did, but so many different stories went around. You didn't know what was true, what was not true. But I remember I was wishing I had dark eyes. Why do I have light eyes? My eye doctor then told me, I said, he says, no, you don't have gray eyes. Your eyes are colorless, practically. He says, but it has a black ring around it. That's what gives it the color. Good thing Mengeles didn't know that.
What could you tell me what the big march was and when that was?
Yeah, that was in January. Then the Russians came so close that we could hear the cannon shoot. And they would not, anybody that worked in the Canada could not be left, because where we worked were the crematorium and the gas chambers were right behind us. And they planted bushes there, so, but I came in there before they planted the bushes. And in October, I remember I saw children there with their parents, with their mother, not with the parents, with their mother. And we said, oh my God, they let some children live, that's great. I found out that they were Roma, you know what it is, yeah. And then they took them in October and they gassed the children with the parents, with the mothers, not the parents, the fathers, I don't know where they were. But they did not like these people, just like they didn't like the Jews. And I know, but the Jewish children, the little ones, they sent with the mother.
Did you have some warning ahead of time that you were going to be marched out of the camp, out of Auschwitz?
Yes, because the Canada that was where we worked was called the Canada, was the last. They marched all the others first, and we were the last ones to get in line and march out. And because we worked with clothing to assort clothing. I remember I put a gray sweater on. We weren't allowed to do that, but I had a blouse on. I put a gray sweater on and some other open sweater and a jacket. It was, you know how cold it was in 44? You can go back. It was the coldest winter they ever had. So I had all kinds of things on which I stole from the Canada, which belonged to the people who came in. These people were legs gone, long gone. You know, that we got then, whomever they killed, they sent the stuff to Germany. But when I was working there once on coats, I had to put together 5 coats, make a bundle, and that was sent to Germany. Whenever, and the German was working up and down in our barrack, and we were working. But whenever the German didn't look, I had the scissors and I cut it. I ruined the coat. Why should they have the Jewish coat? No. I wasn't the only one doing that. Anybody who could do it would do it. No, you took that away. You want to be the big shot? Giving it to the Germans who think you are so wonderful. You provide food, you provide clothing, was all Jewish things. So we tried to make a tear in them. But you couldn't be caught with it. That was a no-no.
So when people were being marched away, did you know where they were going?
It sort of came out that they were going to another camp, that the Russians were very close to us. We could hear them. We could hear the cannons. So they didn't want the Russians to come and find us. And you know what they would have done to the Germans. So we knew they're going to move us to another camp. But by then I had it. The first thing I did was escape. Together with my friend, we were in like cattle trains, open cattle trains, and it was very cold. And we were going first, it says, to Dresden, and then the train, let me first straighten that out. We were going to another concentration camp, Bergen-Belsen. But the train stopped in Neisse. I thought it was a city or something, but my daughter later on looked it up, and it was a whole area called Neisse, Neisse. And there was a very big, where all the trains come together, what do you call that? There was a train from, I don't know, from Berlin and one from Köln. And there was a German, we were in the open car, was a German sitting here and a German sitting on each end. And then there was some straw. And I said, am I allowed? I want to get the straw. We are cold. He says, yeah, you can get the. So I went out. I never came back. I went into another train.
Who was
to
the
a
friend?
normal train with my friend. Ruth, Ruth Corpus.
Jeanette, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my sound is not good, and I think they need to fix it. And can we take a break just for a few minutes till they do that? But remember about where we were, because I want to ask you some more things about that. But let's take a break for just a few minutes, okay?
My sound was a little spotty when you were talking about how you escaped from the cattle car when you were on that death march. Could you tell me that again, how you did that?
Well, when the Russians came close towards the camp, they evacuated the camp, and first we walked, I don't know, was it? They got us into open cattle trains.
Okay, I missed a little bit of what you were saying because of the equipment. So could you go back and tell me again how you escaped from the cattle car on the death march, and then you took another train, but I didn't hear everything. So could you go back to that, the escape with your friend?
We asked... the cattle trains were open, and there was on each end was an SS-man standing. So when we stopped in Nice, I think it was, I asked, there was straws, there was another car there with straws, if we could get some straw in. And he said, yes, we could go over there and get some straw. So my friend and I went out. We took the straw. We went out on the other side of the train, and then there was a train standing on the there, and we went into the train, and the train was a regular train. And we were walking through, and there was one whole thing where only children were in there. So we went in there, and I remember there was a boy in there that said, where are you from? And he said, from Vosswalde. I had never heard of Vosswalde, and I thought it was a town or something. But later on, my daughter found out it was a whole area called Vosswalde. So, and I said, how come you're all alone? You travel alone? He says, no, we were with my parents, with my mother, he said. We were with my mother, but our train was bombed, and we got separated. They were non-Jewish people. So we spoke to him, and then the train started to go, and they said, we're gonna go to Dresden. that in Dresden there is a camp where they're going to collect us, the people from Vosswalde, not us. We were escapists. And then they will try to get their parents, to find the parents for these children. So we went with them, and I don't remember where we stopped before Dresden. But when we came to Dresden, my friend and I went to the Kommandantur. That means to the highest Nazi that was there. And I came in, I said, we had private clothes on, I told you. We stole the clothes in the Canada. I said, Heil Hitler. And he said, yes. I said, I am from Vosswalde. No idea that was not a city. I'm Vosswalde, and my train was bombed, and I don't know where my mother is. Both of us. But I had hair. My hair was never cut. But my friend had very short hair, but she wore a kerchief. And I said, if anything is, you said, oh, my mother cut my hair because I had lice. I said, you must say that. She says, of course, there's no question. But I let my hair, I made braids. I had like little braids. And he says, oh, I heard, it's all right. He says, we will find your mother, don't worry. I said, but you know, my father is stationed in Vienna. We would like to go to Vienna to my father, to be sure. He called over two from the boys, what were they called? The Hitler Youth. He called over two boys. He says, get the girls on the train to Vienna. He was happy he got rid of us. He had so many people to take care of. And he says, I'm sure you find your father there. Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler. We got into the train, and we were fine. And just before Vienna, a conductor came. Tickets. No tickets. Well, it stopped in Vienna. He says, we need tickets. There was a woman with, 5 kids and luggage. And we said, can we help you? And we took the luggage. We helped her. And then when he said, I said, mother is over there. You ask her. Go. The moment he turned around, we went out. We arrived on the Franz Josef Bahnhof. That was exactly across from where I originally lived. So I knew my way around, so did my friend, but to whom are we going? What are we doing? Like I said, I know that in our building there is one lady, Frau Friedel. I know her daughter married a Jew, that she would be nice to us, but it is dangerous to go into our building because there were such Nazis in there. But Ruth says, but my father has friends, and they don't know. They are half Jewish, but nobody knows because they are from Upper Austria and Lower Austria. They're not born in Vienna. So she says, let's go to them. They helped me. So we went to these people, and I remember Ruth opened the door, and her name was Frida, and I really have a picture of her, but I didn't take it out. I should show that picture because that lady was so good. She says, Ruth, but I'm so happy to see you. Come in. And Ruth says, but I'm not alone. I have my friend with me. She says, come on in. And she was baking something. She right away gave us things, and they were so lovely. Their name was Karl and Frida Humburger.
And how would you spell that? Do you know?
Humburger.
And I'm not sure I heard you say Ruth's last name. Ruth, what was her name?
Korkus.
And how do you spell Korkus?
Korkus, something like this. I don't remember. Well,
thank you.
I don't know if her sister is alive in California. Her sister's name was Vera. I know the last time I heard about her was that she was in a home, she was getting blind. Her sister was younger than her. Her sister was born in 28 and Ruth was born in 23 like me. So I don't know if her sister is alive, but she was in a home, she was getting blind, and
yeah, how did you feel arriving at this house where there was, people baking and, they were
very, very good people. They couldn't have been better. I was really a stranger. I mean, they knew Ruth, but I was a stranger. They were very anti the Germans. And of course, she was half Jewish, but nobody knew. I should have had the picture here. I have a picture of her, because she was such a marvelous lady. And they took us in. They had 3 children, one 12-year-old who lived with her mother, who was not far from her. She had an apartment where you walked in like a store, and the main thing. And she told us to come in and that we can stay here because she will go to Upper Austria or Lower Austria, I don't remember, away, because the Russians were coming closer and closer and they were shooting over our heads. But she said to Ruth, you and your friend can stay here if you want. And Ruth says, yeah, we want, we have nowhere to go. And she let us stay, and they went. She had the 12-year-old that was, I don't remember the name. Then she had another little boy called Walter and a little girl called Traude. And because they were such good people, but they had such bad luck, the little girl got, not Charlotte, one of the very bad children's sicknesses, and she died, and so did the little boy. But the oldest one, who stayed with the grandmother, did not get sick. He was the only one who made it. But she was still young. Later on, she had one more boy. And then now, when she gave him the name, she wanted, one of her friends said she will name the kid, but she wanted to name it was a boy. She wanted to give her name, which was a girl. So Frida said no, and she gave me the baby. And I named him Heinz. Not that I knew a Heinz, but I named him Heinz. And she says, yeah, I like that name. And they are alive. That was in 1944. So Heinz would be 70-some odd years if he's alive. I hope he's alive and he got married and has children. I hope the best for them.
So were you there when the war ended?
I was in Vienna when the war ended. We lived in Vienna, and then we got an apartment. We lived with these people, and then Ruth got it from the Kultusgemeinde, from the Jewish, I don't know, in German it is the Kultusgemeinde, but took care of the thing, and we got an apartment. And then I did we had to make some money to live, so I did some translation. Then I still could speak French, and my English wasn't so great, but he was a colonel, and he had a girl whom he wanted to marry or whatever, and she spoke German, and I made all the translation. He wrote the letter, I translated it, and he sent it out. And what was his name? I knew his name. I don't know. I must ask Heidi. Maybe I told her. I'm sure I told her.
And what was Vienna like after the war?
Oh, nobody was a Nazi there. Everybody had hated Hitler, and they were so sorry he came in.
Did you ever go back to see your family's apartment or the furniture store that your family owned?
I tried once, but they said that they got it too. Honestly, they paid for it. Not to my family, they paid for it. Whatever. But we had that apartment that was together with Ruth. And it was all right with me, whatever. I didn't want to have any. I didn't ever look, I think, in the Remprechtdorfer about the store, the furniture store. And I never wanted to go there. But let me see. I think the stores were taken over by Gustl. There was somebody whom I knew because he used to, my father had a car, not that he was a rich man, but we had furniture and somebody didn't pay and gave him the car for it. And it was an old, whatever it was, I don't know, a Steyr. And Gustl used to, my father couldn't drive. So Gustl used to drive, and I remember when we were after Gustl, take us to school or pick us up. Can you pick us up? I said, no, only if your father allows it. But he didn't ask. My father would never have permitted it because it was for the business. But he used to, once in a while, we got Gustl to do that. That was some of the nicer things. But there wasn't too much nice things there. Afterwards, everyone said they want a Nazi and they want, no one, they loved it. They were terrible, they were all liars. They hated the Jews and they took away because, yeah, all the doctors were Jews, they were made that. There were a lot of doctors that were Jews. And there was some very famous doctor like Dr. Freud, Sigmund Freud. I think there were some very famous doctors and they were Jewish. That was true. But they had the same opportunity to study if they wanted. Well,
So you received some help from Jewish agencies in Vienna when you
Well,
returned?
when we returned, there were care packages. They gave us, was that every month? I don't remember. But we got packages, and then for one package of rice, I sold it. I could pay a whole month for our apartment. And then my mother's cousin's son, no, this way, my father had a friend who was a diplomat. I think his name was Kraus, Krauss, something like that. I wouldn't swear to it, but I think so. And I don't know how we found him in Vienna. And he said that he was going to Hungary. He was involved with Hungary. And I said, I had family, I don't know if they're alive, but he says he can take us as secretaries. He took Ruth and me, and I was looking up, their name was Halpern. And I was looking for Laszlo Halpern, Joe Halpern, or Michael Halpern. And I saw there was Joe Halpern. I said, well, let's try that. So we went there. I knew that cousin, and I knew his parents was Herma and Laura. And a lady opened the door, and I said to Ruth, no, that's not, I used to call her Aunt Laura. I said, that's not my Aunt Laura. The lady looks at me and she holds, and I want to leave. And she holds on, and she only speaks Hungarian. I said, Ruth, she definitely, and Laura speaks German, besides Hungarian. She didn't. She says, yeah, sit down. She gave us coffee or whatever. I don't remember, maybe some cake. And she didn't let us leave. And then somebody came And it was Cousin Yoshi. Oh my God, he cried when he saw me. You're left, you're the only one left. And he says, do you know that your mother has an aunt in the United States? And a cousin? I said, I know she has a cousin. I only know her name is Molly. No, Molly in the United States is very hard to find. He says, I have their address. He says, my brother is, Michael was in the army for with the English, or maybe with the Israelis. I don't remember. But he was in the army. He fought in the Second World War against the Germans. And Yoshi said, he said that he is going with his family. His brother is, because he was in the army, in the American army, could bring him over. He didn't have to vote for a quota or anything. And so he gave me the name of my mother's aunt, and he let his father in the United States and Michael know that only one of the family is left. And then they went, and I came, they were getting me an affidavit. But they were really poor. They couldn't, maybe together they could bring them out. But then they found out I can come over as a displaced person. And I came to the United States as a displaced person.
Wait, what year was that?
In 44. I don't know, my daughter would remember. I gave my children the whole thing. And then I came here, and she got me a job, and it was in a factory.
In what city?
In New York. They were New York, although one of her son lived in Pittsburgh. And I could have gone to Pittsburgh. He had a bar, I think, there. But I worked, the place I worked for was Hiawatha Heirloom, and they made needlepoint. You know what that is? So that I was working in the factory like 6 months. When it was Christmas, the big boss, David Traum, came with his brother, the vice president, and then the vice president in charge of all. They had like 30 some odd salesmen. I have pictures of this whole thing. And then he came by, he was very friendly on Christmas, and then he heard that he has one of the he was Jewish, one of the Jewish girls here, so he came over and he says to me, do you like it here? What do you think I answered? Yes, but I am too smart for what I'm doing, I swear. He looked at me. He says, what would you like to do? Well, I would like to sell in your showroom. He says, I have no say over it. I will tell Mr. Nerens, that was the one non-Jewish boss, what you said. And he told me to see Mr. Nerens, and he says, if he will take you. So I went to Mr. Nerens. Every one of the salesmen was scared of Mr. Nerens. Oh my God, what kind of mood is he in? I said, oh my God, I have to go to, but I went. And I said, I would like to work in the showroom. He says, you hardly speak any English. I said, I know, but I know how to sell. He says, tomorrow you don't come here, you go to the showroom. Well, that's what I wanted. I am in the showroom, and I remember the first buyer who came in. She was from Greensboro, North Carolina, and her name was Irma Kampfschmidt. I will never forget that. She came in. What I did know was our inventory. I remembered every design. We had hundreds of designs. I would get phone calls. Do you have something with the red rose, with the blue? I would say, yes. It's on 36 by 36 canvas. We have it in stock, or we have it on order, or we don't get it anymore. They couldn't believe that I could remember their whole line. And I did very, very good. And when I got married, and my husband said, you don't gonna go to work, I don't need that. The big boss, David Traum, called and says, aren't you coming back? I said, my husband wouldn't let me. He was really mad at my husband.
Could you tell me about your husband, how you met, and
Yeah.
tell me his name and a little bit about him?
Yeah, Aaron Herbert Spiegel. No, he was an American. He was born in America. So was his mother. But his father was really from Poland, who came here in, I think, during the First World War, and married his mother, who was an American, and he was born here. When I met him, he worked for his father in sales. He was the only son, and he had two sisters. They both were older. He was the baby. Now, his oldest sister moved then to Israel, where I now have relatives. She died, and so did her husband, but her daughter, the oldest sister her daughter was Celia. She died, but they had children. I have now relatives in Israel. My husband has relatives in Israel, which is very nice. We went to Israel and I met them. I was in Israel twice.
And do you have children as well? You have children? You had children with your husband?
I have 3 children. My oldest is Heidi, is a girl. She was born in 57. My son Jeffrey was born 16 months later, and then 3 years later after my son, I had my youngest daughter, Karen. Now, Heidi is married. She has 1 son, Harry, And I thought you would meet him, but he's involved in something. He's into politics. I said he will never get anywhere because he's so liberal. I said the American people do not go for such liberal like you are. But it is nice that he is so liberal. And then, that is Heidi. Then Jeffrey has 3 children. I think you met Grace.
Mhm.
Then he has a son, Justin, who is a lawyer. And then he has Grace, who was a teacher until she got married, a teacher in New York. And then she could have been a teacher anywhere. She came from a very good college but Jeffrey wanted her to do that. He wanted her. And his youngest daughter is a lawyer too, and Jeffrey made her work for a year, 2 years, pro bono. He says, you cannot charge, you do. And now she charges.
Okay. And what's her name? Jeffrey's youngest. What's her name?
Let me see. Sophie. Yeah. And for 2 years or so, he didn't let her charge. She had to do pro bono things, which I think is very nice. Why not? He didn't need it, and she didn't. He could afford, to keep his children. So let them do good deeds. This country was good to her mother, to his mother, right? So he did the right thing. So this is right. So.
And your youngest daughter,
My youngest
Karen?
daughter has 2 girls. The older one, both are extremely bright. The older one went to Princeton and works for Google. Still, when she was still in college, she worked for Google already. And since then has. And the younger one went to the film school in the University of Southern California, which has the best film school. And because she likes to write. I mean, she don't want to play in films, no. She likes to write. But it's very hard to get into that. There is a lot of competition. But up to now, she got one little thing written that was really played, and was some dialogue between 2 little dogs. But she was very proud of it, that she finally got something on TV or whatever. So.
Now, did you talk to your family about your experiences? Were you able to tell them what happened to you in Europe?
I definitely talked to my oldest daughter and to Jeffrey, and my younger daughter too knew. The children knew. My friend Ruth did not want to talk to her kids. She felt I could understand that. But I said, if I don't talk to them about it, then it can happen again. Let them know what can happen if you're not careful. If somebody like Trump comes, get him out. That's not good for us. So the children, yeah, and the grandchildren too. They know we went to Auschwitz to see Auschwitz, and the first time I think Justin was there. I went twice. I went to the 70th birthday of one. I took Grace, the one that was here, and Harry, that is Heidi's son, but my younger daughter's kids did not go. I don't think they ever went to Auschwitz. But they know, they studied about it.
How did you feel going back there after so many years?
I went back there like, how do you feel when you go back to visit the cemetery and your parents are buried there? That's how I felt. It is something I have to do to honor all the people who died there. And I took my children, so don't you ever forget what can happen. They would never forget any of it. They were brought up like this. And my older daughter, when the trial of, what was the famous trial, the Nazi, Israel had him, the head of the SS, Eichmann, the Eichmann trial. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Heidi was 6 years old. I put her on the couch and said, "Sweetheart, let's watch the television. Mommy has to tell you something." I said, "You see that man? He's the meanest man in the world." I said, "There was one more mean than this one. He's dead. His name was Hitler. But Eichmann is on trial now because he killed a lot of Jewish people, and we are Jewish." And she sat through, I don't know, it was terrible. Why did I do that to my kid? But she remembered, you will talk to her. I did that to her. Jeffrey was too small. Heidi was 6, and Jeffrey was like 3 years old. I didn't make him. But Heidi, with 6 years, she saw the out. When she talks to people and say, "Oh, I saw the trial of Eichmann on television," they can't believe it. I said, "Yeah, they believe it. You had a crazy mother who made you watch it." But I think she will never forget that she watched that trial. And I don't regret it. She saw the meanest man alive at the time.
So, Jeanette, could I ask you, before we end the interview, if you have a message that you would like to say to the future generations, what do you think you would want to say to
I
them?
would say to them that they must be very careful, never let something happen like this again, that when they see somebody wants the power so much, that is never good. There should never be a dictator, because under you should always be able to vote for, and whoever got the most vote will be. And it is good that it is 4 years, and if the person is good, It will be 8 years. And then I think Washington made such a great decision that he did not want to be forever the head of that state, that he made it that 8 years, because nobody should be there forever. They become dictators, no matter how, even if they're benevolent dictators, you do not want that. So they should be very careful. And we have a Mr. Trump now. Mr. Trump, and please don't let that man get, it is terrible that he became our president, but enough was enough. And I like Mr. Biden, who took over, and I think he is a very nice, and he treats the people equally good, if they're good, bad. I like the way it is here.
And Jeanette, this last year we had a terrible pandemic, and I'm wondering how it was for you. Was it a difficult time for you?
Well, I didn't get sick. I have a daughter who would like to wrap me in cotton and not let me talk. Don't talk. Heidi is so protective that I can't tell you. She is something very, very special. No, you cannot go shopping, Mommy. I do it. I do it. You stay here. Don't talk to anybody. I said you become a little dragon. You don't let me do anything. She says, when everything will be all right, Mommy, you're gonna do it again. Yeah, she's very good. All my children. Jeffrey is very protective of me. It might not look like this, but oh, no.
Good. Well, I hope you are going to have your vaccinations and
I had them. I'm finished.
Good. Okay, good. I'm very glad to hear that.
Heidi got me in there the moment they opened it. She took hers later, but she brought me immediately.
So, Jeanette, is there anything else you could think of that you would like to add to this interview before we bring your children on?
No, I think I told you everything. And of course, do not let a dictator ever get there, because no matter how benevolent he looks, there should never be that only one person makes the decision, and you cannot get rid of him. If the president makes a decision, we're never gonna vote. That is no good. He will be voted out. That's how it should be.
Yes, and I think we can also do some photographs. Do you have some pictures that you want to include on the interview?
Let me see what I have here. Well, this is my mother in the dark on the corner.
Okay, I'm not sure. Someone's going to have to help with the. Yeah.
I don't know where they are. Yeah. Oh, that's my father in the First World War.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Good. That's my sister and me.
And can you tell me again your sister's name?
Irma. IRMA.
Yeah. And when was that picture taken?
When I was 3 years old. So I'm now 97, and I was 3
And where was it taken?
in Vienna.
And how do you have that picture?
When I came to the United States, my great aunt had it. My mother sent her pictures of her children, and my great aunt preserved them. And when she died, I inherited these pictures. And I have my mother. In the dark dress, that's my mother. Where is my daddy?
Okay, could we talk about this picture? She's in the dark dress, and could
Yeah.
you say her? Could you say her name again, please? Your mother's name?
Ita, I-T-A.
And her maiden
Her
name?
maiden name was Taub, Taub.
And when do you think that picture was taken?
Oh, before I was born, definitely.
And who were the other two people in that photo?
The one in the middle is the wife, the mother of Yoshi, the cousin that got me with the family, and the other one is my mother's cousin from the United States.
And her name again?
Let me see. The Hungarian one was Laura, and Molly and Anna. That is Anna.
And what is Anna's second name?
Grob. Grob.
And when do you think it was taken before you were born? And where were they? Was all this also in Vienna?
They were in Vienna. That was before she came to the United States. And Laura went back to Hungary. She lived in Hungary. But I have something which is a letter that who wrote it? Mommy, my mother wrote to the great aunt in the United States, and my sister wrote in English on it. The letter otherwise is in German, but whatever my sister wrote is in English because she took English in school.
What does it say? What does the letter say?
Heidi, what's under it? You have to open it, and I need glasses because I don't want it to fall apart. It is very old. It is something where the dear cousin, I have no glasses, I can't read. She writes in German. I have to be careful. But my sister might have written in English. Gracie, darling, is that English? That's my sister. Yeah, I can't see, I can't read it. But That's my sister had English. I had French in school. She had English. So she wrote in English. She wrote to my for her that was a great aunt. What does she say? Dear cousin, you don't know how happy we are to hear from you. That's translated. It's in German. But that's about for my daughter Irma. She must have sent the letter maybe to my sister.
Does the letter have a date on it?
Yeah. Can you see? It has. You want my glasses?
May 21st, 1939, Vienna.
Is Heidi here? Maybe she.
I read it. It's May 21st.
You know the date?
Yes.
Yeah, she can read the date. I can't see it. Gracie,
Yes.
please tell them what the date is.
It's May 21st, 1939, and it says Vienna at the top.
Is it possible to read just the English part of it?
Well, all this is in German, right? The English part is only my sister. My parents did not speak English. Here, my sister, right? Is that in English? Did she write in English? Or,
This is English.
Oh, she did write.
Yeah.
You have to read it. I cannot see
okay
that little.
Okay. My dear cousin, I was very surprised as I have.
Just thanking them.
Yeah, I'm reading it. My dear cousin, I was very surprised as I have got an affidavit from you. I shan't go to America so quickly. I'm sorry because I must wait for my quota. I don't know how long it will last, but I hope not very long. I thank you very much for your great trouble, and I wish to see you as soon as possible. Hearty greetings for all from your cousin, Irma.
She took English in school, but in my school they gave French. But it was good for me because I went to Belgium.
So now, Jeanette, I think it would be good to have your family come around you. Moira, is that possible?
Zipporah, I think there are more photos too.
There's more photos? I'm sorry. Yeah. Is there another one?
That's my father.
Yeah, could you tell us his name too?
Yeah, Oscar. Ozias. We called him Ossie.
And when do you think that picture was taken?
Before I was born. Because it must have been during World War I. Because that's the only time he wore a uniform. He was in World War I.
And where was it taken?
It must have been taken in Vienna.
Okay. Are there another picture? Is that the last one, or is there another picture?
Gracie, what is that picture from?
That's Grandpa's birthday.
What?
Grandpa's birthday a few years ago.
It's the family,
Yeah.
but what did we celebrate?
Grandpa's birthday. Grandpa's 90th birthday.
I can't hear you.
Grandpa's 90th birthday. His birthday.
Oh, Grandpa's 65th birthday?
90.
60th?
90.
90th birthday? I know there was a big party, and I gave him a party on his 60th.
I know, but
this is the 90th.
This is the one, right? This is his 90th at Club A, at Club A Steakhouse.
Yeah, there's all my grandchildren are there. Absolutely. His 90th birthday. But Grandpa is now 92.
Right, so it's 2 years ago.
It was 90.
So, can you show that photo also to the camera?
Where's Mommy?
I have. Your mom?
Yeah. That's my mother and my father. Barry, my dog. He's in Europe. He's not there anymore. He would be very old. But that was in Europe.
And when was that picture taken?
When did I have Barry? In 40.
Yeah.
Later?
No, earlier.
When did I come here?
49.
In 49 I came. So Barry must have been there in 44, 45.
Well, no, Mother, that's when you were in
I-
Auschwitz. Barry must have been like in 47.
In 47. I don't remember. I know I had a dog. He was very cute and very good, very well behaved. Now I have a cat.
Those are all the old ones.
I like cats because they saved my life.
Yeah, those are all the old ones.
So Moira, should we do the family?
Sure. Yeah, I think we can. So I
Yeah.
think before it's gonna.
Where
Okay,
is everybody?
we can do it. Let's
Pause.
pause. Yeah, we're gonna pause.
So, Jeanette, could you introduce your family to us?
She can't hear you.
Can you introduce
Oh, okay.
us?
Maybe someone could take over and just tell us who everybody is.
Stop.
Well, yes.
No.
Moira.
I will start
I-
with my husband.
Okay.
That's my husband, Aaron Herbert Spiegel. My oldest daughter, Heidi Jo Spiegel. My granddaughter, Gracie, what's your middle name?
Alexi.
Gracie Alexi
Hutcher. Yeah.
Hutcher. That's
Hutcher.
right. You're
Yes.
married.
Yes.
You're not a Spiegel.
No.
My son, Jeffrey Owen Spiegel.
And
The
is
rest
there?
of the family is not here. I have a much bigger family.
Would anyone like to talk a little bit about, your grandmother and sort of fill in a little bit more into this interview?
Well, I don't know where to start. So obviously we're very close. I take care of my parents. I'm lucky enough to live in the same building, and they helped raise my son, Ari, because I was a single mom from the time he was 2 years old. So we're very tight. But I have to correct the Eichmann trial, I was 3. I was not 6. Because I remember watching it like yesterday. My mom, who I put on Facebook every now and then, always, all my friends from the time 7th grade it started, she would go in every year and speak in classes. And to this day, every time I post her photo, or it was just their anniversary, their 65th wedding anniversary yesterday. And immediately someone will pipe in, I will never forget hearing your mom relay her stories to us in history class. And she made them very accessible.
Look at the snow.
And there's snowing out. And so I take care of my mom, not just because I adore her, she's my mom, but because I've been entrusted with a piece of history. And my friends remind me every time when I post her picture and how she touched their lives, and many of them say she changed their lives of who they grew up to be, hearing her stories.
Thank you. And Grace or Jeffrey, do you want to add something?
Yeah, sure, I guess. She also spoke to my class, which was a really incredible experience for me and my fellow classmates, especially because of the distance from, when she spoke to my class, not everyone knows someone who, was affected like by the Holocaust as much. And so it was a really, I think like Heidi said, accessible way to hear things. And just in general, growing up, I've always been so amazed hearing her stories about how strong she was. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, you heard the stories that she was doing such like badass things. Sorry, but yeah, doing such crazy things when she was younger to survive. And, it's really an honor to, have that DNA. And I need to clarify. So I stopped teaching because I had a baby, and now I'm in school for speech pathology. I didn't stop teaching because I got married. That's my clarification. Okay.
So, as I think you heard, family is very, very important to my mother, and her loss of family, and the fact that she views her children, her grandchildren, and now her grandchildren as part of the rebuilding process. In fact, she calls Grace's daughter number 11 because she has 11 blood relatives in the world, and this is part of the rebuilding process.
I'm going to have another one soon.
Another one soon.
And another one coming in 6 weeks.
I do have to say, and I should also, and I think everyone will say, we should never miss out on this. What made, from the other Holocaust survivors that I met, what made my mom different was very often they view themselves as victims. My mother looked at life as she made it through, she had us, she's what we always kid around, she's the winner. So, and she's viewed all her life as that she's the winner because she's here.
I beat Hitler.
That's it. So, and has lived a great life, a great full life.
When you met Ivy, my daughter, we were in the hospital. Grandma was holding her and just looks at Ivy and says, like, I won.
And I understood my father used to tell me that's what she did when I was first born. She held me and she used to say, "I'm the winner."
That's so lovely. Thank you so much. This was.
I beat Hitler.
Thank you. We
This
appreciate
was
the
really
opportunity.
my honor, really, to interview you. Thank you so much, Jeanette, and your whole family. Jeanette, could you tell us who this picture is of?
Who is that?
That was made when I worked. I advertised. I was in Needlepoint. The firm produced Needlepoint, and I was on television to advertise it, and that was the official picture.
And what year was that picture taken?
What year?
Who remembers? I used to work still.
54.
Around 1954.
And where was it taken?
53,
I
54.
mean, it's
Where was it taken?
that was your PR shot.
Yeah,
Where was it taken?
I don't remember.
In New
but-
York it was
In
taken.
New York,
Yeah.
yeah. The firm wanted it. I didn't pay for that.
No, it's your PR shot. You could
They-
have had it and signed it.
Where I
and sewn
worked,
it.
the people paid for it.
Yeah. Is there another photo that we wanted to see?
I think we kind of covered it, unless there are ones that
great.
you can
Okay.
think of that you want.
Did she show, can't we show just the thing to say we're all in Krakow?
Oh yeah, that was another correction I just wanted to make.
Yeah.
We, all of the grandchildren, did go to Auschwitz to visit with her. We didn't leave anyone behind.
No,
My
nobody.
grandchildren.
And this is the photo of.
Yeah, that's the
Oh, that
camera.
one, show it
Right
and tell
there.
who it is, and
I
then we
don't
must
have
stand
my
on a
great
slant.
grandchildren in there.
And so this is all the grandchildren in Krakow.
Okay. Could you say the names of everybody? Start from the left to the right.
Left to right. So grandma.
Say their names.
Oh wait, left to right. Sorry.
What does she want
Who's
to
that?
know?
Just say who it is.
My oldest grandson, Justin Spiegel, it is Jeffrey's son. Then that's you, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Then that is Grace, also Jeffrey's daughter. Then that is Samantha, my younger daughter's daughter. Who's that?
Sophie. Sophie.
Sophie, that is the youngest of Jeffrey.
Michelle.
Michelle.
That is Michelle, the youngest of my younger daughter. And the one tall grandchild I have is Heidi's son.
And what's his name? Does he have
What's
a
his name?
What's his name?
Oh, Harry, not Harry,
Harry. He's
Harry's son.
Harrison. Harry.
His name is Harry's son.
And where was that taken?
Where? This was in Krakow.
It was in Krakow when we went as a whole family to visit Auschwitz with her.
And what year was that?
2000.
7 years ago. She was going to turn 90, and we went a couple months
Oh.
before. It was for her 90th birthday.
So let's do math.
So that was in
July.
what?
July or August.
That was 04.
Okay, 2004.
14.
2014.
I'm 97
Yes.
now,
I know.
so
So-
figure it out.
Right,
We did.
2014.
2014.
July of 2014.
Great. Okay. Thank you again, Jeanette. It was my honor to be your interviewer. It was so wonderful to meet you, even though it's just virtual. But I feel like if I was there, I would give you a hug.
To other people that they know what can happen.
Yes, definitely. Okay, I'm turning off my my recorder.
Thank you so much.